Okay, well, this is interesting. I got, well, I just met you. But I know you and I know you.
What an unusual group of people to sit around in a room together.
Yeah,
We should all introduce ourselves.
you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Got drama tweet reading YouTuber Bowblax.
I am a tech destruction YouTuber, Plainrock.
I'm a racist YouTuber, AugieRFC.
Is that how you want the world to know you? Racist?
Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm a good guy,
Yeah?
AugieRFC.
By the way, for anybody who may not know, like we had Bowblax and Augie and I have like kind of a history. Bowblax and I
A very long,
a very extensive
fucked
history.
up history.
I think it started like in the middle of the pandemic with Augie specifically. We like debated and it like just went off the rails.
Look,
and all
I
this
will
shit.
say it started like December 2020. You put out a thread calling me
yeah.
a fascist.
That is true.
Very evil term.
That is.
I'm
true.
ready
Took a
for
big
this.
issue with that.
I gotta be honest with you. I kind of regret that entire thread.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day. Like the whole thing was, I was seeing the internet
Hey,
from this
Xylee.
like normie perspective,
Right.
and I feel like I was just putting people into like these boxes without even fully understanding what the fuck they were even about, just based off of like loose statements that I would see.
Well, I got to push back there instantly because like normies view me as a cool regular guy, right?
Okay.
So it's like,
But
how
I'm
could
saying-
you
I'm
see me
saying
as an
somebody-
evil fascist like Hitler or something like that? It's like
I-
I'm not anywhere near that, right?
I think maybe then my definition of a normie is a person who knows nothing about internet culture.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
really where I was at. Like I knew like the Keemstar Leafy, like the some of that shit and like the basic mainstream like YouTube shit,
Yeah.
but I wasn't into like the trenches of like what YouTube culture and what the community is. I could name 10 YouTubers, like you could literally do the Bill Clinton kid thing with me and I would probably
Really?
be able to name like 5.
Well, you
Yeah.
followed my good friend.
Asked me at that time about YouTube shit,
Yeah.
but I wasn't into like the trenches of like what YouTube culture and what the community is. I like you could ask me at that time about like if I could name 10 YouTubers, like you could literally do the Bill Clinton kid thing with me and I would probably
Really?
be able to name like 5.
Well, you
Yeah.
followed my good friend X Panda. You know, I got to shout out Ben
X-Panda?
back at home or whatever. You followed that guy or whatever, so you had to know somewhat about internet culture to follow that guy, right?
I think at that point I was just like following everybody that I was seeing was making content,
Right.
and I was trying to like familiarize myself, but I
Yeah.
didn't like. I was really out of the loop with a lot of
Well,
shit.
look, I don't want to make things too toxic on this show or whatever, but
Yeah.
I do got to ask, like,
Yeah.
what motivated you to call me a fascist? I just have
Call
to
you a
ask that.
fascist? I think at that point I had seen like I knew you guys were like memeing on a lot of like stuff that's like super edgy that personally I wouldn't do.
Right.
And I think that from that perspective, it like it especially with the rhetoric and the narrative that the internet had at that time, it immediately like linked to like fascist, right? That's
Right.
like, oh yeah, this guy's just like doing this, like he's joking
Oh.
about January 6th. He's a fascist, you know. Obviously, that's not a very nuanced way to think about things. It's very like black and white, and it mostly relies on like villainizing the other person, you know.
Well, I will
So-
say this: you've been on a very fantastic career in the past, like 1 year alone or whatever. Like, I'm curious to see where your mindset has changed because a year ago you came across as a very like adversarial figure in my community. It's like, oh, this guy thinks you're the worst person in the world. Whereas nowadays you seem like a very chilled back, relaxed guy or whatever. I'm just curious, like, what has gone on in the last like year that's like changed your mind on so much? Because I can
Like-
tell you've changed your mind on a lot.
I changed my mind on a lot. I think that
Stop
and we
being a
were talking
pick-me.
about this a minute ago. Like being shut in the pandemic, and in my experience in the pandemic, I was like about 2.5 years completely by myself. Like my family couldn't come in because of the travel ban.
Yeah.
Like they were completely shut out. And I had like just recently moved to LA, so I didn't know anybody here. And the person that I did know went back to New York and just stayed in New York. So I was here for like literally 2.5
Who
years
did you
by
know?
myself. And my mindset went to like the super negative and toxic, right? And I
Right.
just kept doing it. And to an extent, I ended up getting very rewarded on YouTube for doing that shit. You know what I mean?
Well, negativity sells.
You fed into a lot of, I feel like, leftist talking points, which do reward you immediately with instant gratitude, where it's
Yeah.
like, you call this guy fascist, you're a hero for doing that,
Yeah,
right?
you're like, hey, wow, Wow, you called somebody a fascist. You deserve a Purple Heart.
Right.
It's literally what it is. It really is. There are a lot of people who see it through that lens, and like the more that I've been learning about this shit and like coming out back into the real world, and especially like establishing a business, which like I've always been like a super social person, and I've always been doing stuff.
Have you though?
But being alone for that long, and then just like inculcated, I don't even know if that's the fucking word, and that all that negativity that I was generating. You know, once I got out and I was like, fuck, like all this shit
got out
isn't even real. I've been like feeding into a bunch of shit that isn't even fucking real, because when you see people like in real life, that nobody gives a fuck.
Right.
Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I won't lie.
I was just
it has been very interesting to see you like, sort of change your viewpoints on a lot of shit in the last year or whatever. But I won't lie, like a lot of fans view this as like you, like, you know, you've lost everything or whatever, so you're turning back to the community that turned on you initially, right? So it's like, how do you respond to that, right? Like, I'm genuinely curious, because I want to break your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see how people can see that. And to an extent, yeah, like losing a majority, I would say like 90% of my viewership did have like an effect. I had to like go back and like think, holy shit, like maybe some of the things that I do think are funny aren't as funny. Maybe some of the things that I thought worked and are good aren't that good. So I had to like literally relearn how to do a lot of shit and just like
it
think
wasn't
in a
about
different way.
being funny
You know?
when you
Let
called
me
them
like
a
break your
fat.
brain a little bit, because you went through a lot of drama obviously last year with the Papa Gut stuff and everything involving that.
Let me what?
Shit, and just like think in a different way.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me like break your brain a little bit, because you went through a lot of drama obviously last year with the Papa Gut stuff and everything involving that. You know, what was going on through your mind there? So Papa Gut makes this video criticizing one of your debates. Like,
I think
what's
he's
going on in your
the same
head?
age as me.
I think that to an extent, I got so focused on just like winning
He got
and doing
painful.
things that I thought were funny when they weren't actually funny, and ended up being like super incredibly offensive and diminutive to people, that I ended up just kind of losing kind of common sense. And what, you know what I mean?
So with Papa Gut or whatever specifically, right? Like you called him out, you made a response video, you said that he was like a piece of shit or whatever, right? So
Didn't he call him
you
a
just seeing it as
pedo?
like, this guy is going after my YouTube, reputation or something like that, right?
I
so
think
I have to
eventually-
stomp him out now.
I think eventually it got to that, but the day that I made the like initial video, I was like, I really didn't have like another topic. And I was like, oh, maybe I can react to this commentary. And because I was so to his commentary, because I was so stuck in just making shit so hyperbolic and inflammatory and aggressive, I got like just stuck into doing that with him, which I think that my first video, like responding to him, was like super unnecessarily aggressive. We even talked about this too when I responded to you. It was
that's
like
what
unbelievably aggressive, you know.
It was like completely out of nowhere. It's just like I reacted to one of your videos where you shared Keemstar saying
Am I right?
like the N word, or quoting the N word when talking about like Soar Gaming, all of that. And I said it was funny, but I didn't specify that it was funny if you were calling him out or like if I was mad at you or whatever. So you thought that I was mad at you and not
that's what
laughing along with it.
Yeah.
So then you made a response, and it was just like the most aggressive thing ever. I'm like, whoa, I don't even want to respond back, because it's like, it was just so much. I'm like,
are you all right, dude?
Yeah, and I apologize again. I apologize to you the other day. I apologize again. I think it was, I like.
Please be
like
my
I was
friends.
saying, you get stuck in this mode of like, at least I was, of like seeing shit through one lens and one perspective, and you just keep doing it. And then, especially when you're getting financially rewarded for it, it was very convenient for me to just stay stuck on that. But I got to be honest with you, I felt so fucking
Doesn't he
miserable that
have,
whole
like,
time. I felt sad, unhappy, because I was just unloading so much aggression and negativity on the people necessarily. Like you even said, you just thought it was funny, and I immediately jumped to the conclusion that it was like aggressive.
and,
You know,
like, you could have been hyperbolic and joking about it without having be so aggressive. You know? Or maybe you could have that thought, and it could be like one little segment, but then you also do like some more like jovial like responses to it. Like, of course it's funny that like. I don't know. Just could have been
like,
more
if
positive.
anything,
Here's the thing, I won't lie. It's like it's been very interesting watching your like transition into your thought process in the last year or whatever, because you've been very friendly with like you know, commentary type people, but not just commentary type, because the commentary community is like such a fucked genre where it's like everybody has like the worst ideas of like who these people are or whatever. But I have noticed like you've been very friendly towards types of people that have been very adversarial towards you or whatever. So that obviously tells me you've gone through a very different change in your thought process on YouTube and stuff like that, right? And the fact that you even have like me here, a guy that's made like many videos and streams just like bashing you and just shitting on you or whatever for like every debate you've had, that tells me it's like you're at a very different position right now than you were back a year ago. So I'm just curious, like, what's like caused that? Is it just the monetary like loss, or is it like a genuine thought process that's like changed in your head?
Well, it's primarily the thought process. Like I said, I was feeling like shit a lot of the time, right? And I was putting out that shit, I was getting it back 2-3-fold, right? And honestly, not only in general, like of the energy that I'm getting back, but then like interacting with people in the real world and like seeing, holy shit, I'm doing this digitally with this person. Does that make sense? Would I do this in real life? Fuck no. So why am I doing it like this, right? Yeah, again, like financially, seeing like such a huge dip only was further confirmation of how I was wrong. Does that make sense?
Would you have gone down this path eventually? Like, do you envision us sitting here right now and talking with you if you did not lose majority of your fan base?
I think so, yeah. I think so, just because I don't think that what I was doing before was actually sustainable. I think, honestly, I would have ended up, like, killing myself or, like, dying of a heart attack. Yeah. Because that's how bad I felt that whole time doing that shit.
So do you see, like, the loss that you've gained on your channel as kind of like a blessing in disguise?
Yeah. I've said this multiple times. It's been one of the best blessings because it completely freed me from having to do that shit and just being, like, just completely being you're, like, laughing.
Yeah. Well, it's because I'm like, you're welcome, I guess.
This ass.
I paused it, so I'm like, wow, I'm hearing how I helped this guy's life by shitting on him. I need to shit on people online more often. I'm literally like saving their lives.
Well, this is the thing. I think I'm sorry to interrupt. I think that like through like crooked roads, you guys ended up to an extent contributing to me finding a better sense of self that wasn't as focused on just lashing out, which is something that I got to be honest with you, like it became like financially profitable, like I said, right? So it was like I'm just living in that. That's not how people work in the real world, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Oh yeah, from an outsider's perspective, I had nothing to do with that drama. I just like kind of kept up with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But like from what I could see, I see you've grown a lot as a YouTuber, and it's very nice to see. It's like you're evolving. Like a lot of YouTubers, need to improve, but like a lot of YouTubers are too stubborn too, kind of like me. But I can see you have real growth.
I think it comes down to like just, for me at least, it was just recognizing how I was isolating myself in something that I really love. I really love YouTube, and I love making videos. And even if it got down to me making videos for 10 people again, because I was like that like years ago, I would still make them. You know what I mean? But I was isolating myself from a community of people who are like-minded, who share similar interests of making content, and are above all entrepreneurial. Because to be on YouTube, it's different than being in the Hollywood system and being anywhere else. You have to make it for yourself, right?
Definitely.
So I was cheating myself out of friendships and relationships because I wanted to fight people, and I was making money off of it. Does that make sense?
Because
that if anything, the lesson to learn from me is to not go down that path, because you'll fuck yourself over, and you won't be as lucky. Because one of the things I did that kind of opened my mindset even more was I took a huge risk making this space, right, that I made, right? Took the biggest risk of my life, and this space, thankfully, has replaced my income, you know, so like I don't rely on YouTube space, right, that I made, right? Took the biggest risk of my life, and this space, thankfully, has replaced my income, you know, so like I don't rely on YouTube.
So the
But
Deaf
there's-
Noodles Comedy Club is like been a really successful venture for you.
Well, it's more than just a comedy club, right? I have these like podcast spaces and recording studios that I also rent. Like during the day, I rent out the comedy club.
Yeah, I saw some
right?
some signs outside your studio,
Yeah.
like if you want to record a podcast here, like
Yeah.
look us up or whatever.
Yeah, so that's how like I diversified, in terms of like just doing the thing that I do on YouTube, but for other people, right? And making it easy because not everybody has the same production know-how, right?
Yeah.
And also it's like my dream. It's always been my dream to be a comedian, right? And I worked on it for a bit. It still suck. It takes years to be a good comedian, right? So club where I can work on it now, and I can, during the day, like today we had like auditions, like I rent it out during the day, and then at night it's a comedy club. So yeah, like, I'm doing the best I can do with this space so I can monetize and just, keep expanding stuff, like, my idea of what I can do as not just a YouTuber, but like an entrepreneur,
Yeah. Well, I got to bring back to YouTube a little bit though, because
Yeah.
I do genuinely am curious, right? It's like, you had a lot of beef with a lot of YouTubers,
Yeah.
myself included, but also like, aforementioned Papa Gut, but also other YouTubers as well, or whatever. Do you have any like ill will or like negative thoughts about these people, or have you completely moved on in a sense where you're like,
Good question.
whatever, these people made videos about me, that's just how the game works, like I don't give a fuck anymore, like do you care at all, or have you completely moved on and are just like, I am this entrepreneurial guy now who's focused on my own comedy club and none of this dumb YouTube shit?
Yeah, no, I love YouTube. I just don't want to engage in like dramatic and negative situations with people anymore. And like I understand that it's a part of the business to make those videos. Like even if I hadn't gone down the path that I did, if I had reached any level of success, I would have videos made on me, right? You get people that are super loved. They, regardless of the genre they're in on YouTube, whether they're commentary or family vloggers or whatever it is, they have videos that are made about them, positive or negative, right? So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I see it strictly as like, it's just business. Like people are doing,
right?
They gotta eat.
You have
somehow.
a very entrepreneurial mind or whatever. I'm just curious, like, you're sitting in a studio, right, with a guy like me. Like, do you have any issue with anything I personally said about my videos? Or do you think that it's like, whatever, this guy's on YouTube?
Let me tell you something right now, okay? I put this bet back here because it was going to crash. Now I don't give a fuck. You said
You
what
don't
you
give a
said.
fuck.
And honestly,
Have you watched any of my videos on you? I'm curious.
I think I've watched, like, when we first had the beef. This was like end of 2020, beginning of 2021.
Right.
Yeah, I watched
Ancient times.
Yeah, I watched a few of them. But then it got to a volume 2 where there were so many people making videos about me and it was like, honestly, that also would like have a fucked up effect on my mental health, and I had to just like I would
you
have
would
to
just
tune
avoid
out.
that shit.
Yeah, I had to kind of tune out so that I could keep doing what I was doing. You know what I mean? And because just what I was doing was already negative enough and fucked me up enough. If I had the other shit on top of it, But I did catch like videos, or like tweets and stuff. That's how we ended up having our interaction. That's how the whole thing with Papa
My
Gut
Twitter is just fucked, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I've been
seeing you be
permanently
getting banned all the time.
suspended on Twitter just now or whatever.
So wait, why did that happen?
Well, the reason why I got permanently banned from Twitter now is
'Cause
because
I'm a
I
fascist.
agreed with Bruce Stropomoff, which had this very
Ew.
newsworthy quote that got a lot of attention, where he said Mizkiff should kill himself.
Wait,
Who?
who's Bruce Strawberry?
Bruce Stropomoff is a
Bruce Stropomoff.
Twitch
Yeah,
streamer.
Oh.
He's a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I
that's
simply agreed with this quote sarcastically.
Yeah.
Of course, I would never advocate for that type of stuff, right? But Twitter decided that they would take my sarcastic quote seriously, and suspend me off of Twitter.
You need some contacts at Twitter, bro.
I
You need
do.
some people-
I probably do, but I've always taken
Oh,
mega
yeah.
risk on my Twitter account, and this latest risk has
forgot.
cost me my permanent account. I don't know. To me, like personally, just to relate it back to this interview, like I'm always curious.
Oh, please like the stream. That would be very cool.
Like when I speak to people, because I've talked to a lot of people that I've made videos and streams on. Like, do you ever personally look at like a guy like me and see that as like, oh fuck this cocksucker Augie who said all this shit about me?
At one
Or do
point,
you just
at one point,
yes.
yes, but then I had to grow out of it because it's not
Right.
like it's ever gonna go away. It is what it is. It's
So.
this business. You got to eat the same way that I ate off of talking about other people. Like it would be a certain level of hypocrisy for me to just think that I am sanctimonious. I cannot be talked about.
Well, I guess from that thought process, I would ask, like, and this is I'm genuinely curious, is like, how do you make that dissertation from like, troll behavior to like genuine criticism? Like when you get negative feedback on YouTube, how do you make that like, assertion as to what negative feedback is versus what some random troll trying to stir you up is?
I mean, I think you can tell just from people's intentions, right? Like, a lot of the videos, a lot of the commentary about me specifically were people who were like genuinely concerned. And even in your case, I felt like you had some level of concern in what you would say. Yeah. So you see it from the way the person's talking.
Look, I don't like seeing people fail. I think that's kind of like pathetic and sad to watch. Like, for instance, I've been covering this guy Tipster a lot, right? And I think he's been making a lot of fuck ups in his personal career. But I've also tweeted on my private account, which I have to tweet on now because I'm banned, right? Like, I don't like seeing this guy fail and I don't like seeing any e-celeb like make all of the wrong moves and like fuck up their entire career. I don't like seeing them fall apart and just fail in their career or whatever. Ideally, I'd like to see everybody succeed. But I also acknowledge this, like, you have to have like a specific mind in order to succeed. And some people are built with that. Other people are not. So, I don't know. It creates a situation where, like, people are predestined to fail. I've had a lot of people fail. In the commentary community especially, a lot of the people that I've chosen to surround myself with are, like, fucking idiots. Like Flamenco or Tipster or any of these people that I'm sure people listening to this podcast wouldn't even know about. But I've surrounded myself with a lot of people that are just, like, predestined to fail. And on one hand, it's like it sucks to see them make all the wrong decisions. Who's laughing?
He was just like, oh my God, not me. He's like, right next to me.
Surrounded people who think you're gonna fail. Oh my God.
Dude, he only hangs around failures.
But it's like I do surround myself with a lot of people that.
Hung out for the last 4 years. What are you saying?
Well, look, if you haven't failed in the last 4 years, you probably are on a pretty good trajectory, right?
Just failed, dude.
I don't know. The point of what I'm making is that I've seen a lot of people fuck up around me, and it's sad because it's like this entertainment game. I don't feel like it's very challenging. You give the people what they want. You tell them what they want to hear. They pay you because they like that shit, and you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you do the same thing again. Like it's not that difficult to sell entertainment to, but I feel like a lot of people they get too interpersonally attached to their community, which I think, to be honest, you made that mistake a little bit.
Yeah, I did, and that was part of like I looked back, like somebody cut a clip of one of the videos that I did, like roasting, comments, and I looked back on it, and I was thinking back, like PewDiePie used to do that all the time in 2016 too. He used to just go in on the hate comments, and I don't know at what point I cultivated a community that wasn't able to accept that. I think it was a reflection of myself. Does that make sense? Because I wasn't able to accept that, so they weren't able to accept it as well.
Accept what? Huh?
And just going off of what you were saying about Phil.
I have one question. You don't have to talk about it, but I was just curious. Remember that whole, I think it was Salvo Pancakes when he came to the show and all that went down? Like, would you like to talk about more about that? Like, I only got the surface level of all that.
I think I wish Salvo well. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I wish Salvo well. I hope he's doing good. That's it.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
Yeah.
No animosity. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, what am I? That's it. That's that.
Yeah.